Our first guest tonight also got a shout out today from the president. He's often taking the fight directly to the radical Dems, defending the president, recently filing an ethics complaint against House Speaker Pelosi for her abhorrent, aberrant behavior at the State of the Union. Joining us tonight, Congressman Matt Gaetz, a member of the House Judiciary and Armed Services Committees. Congressman, great to have you with us. And the president, I thought, had a terrific idea. Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House. It has a ring to it, doesn't it?
I'm certainly looking forward to Republicans taking over the House, and that is all the more likely with the president having a triumphant week. The State of the Union, a raging success, acquitted in the Senate, and just moments ago, Lou, I got notice that the president has taken off of the battlefield the leader of al-Qaeda Yemen, and that is particularly meaningful to me because al-Qaeda Yemen had taken responsibility for the murder of my constituents in Pensacola, Florida, on our naval base. And the president's just proving the Trump doctrine works. We are going to kill the terrorists and we're going to come home without being excessively entangled in foreign wars. So triumphant week, and all the more likely that Republicans will be in control of the House and the Senate and the presidency after this next election.
You today filed ethics charges against Pelosi. What is the likelihood that her aberrant behavior as Speaker for the entire Assembly at the State of the Union will be indeed significant enough to result in consequences?
It should result in consequences. Nancy Pelosi disgraced the House of Representatives. She embarrassed our country. All of the world was watching as she had her petulant, childlike behavior of ripping up an official record of the House submitted as an original under the signature or over the signature of the President of the United States. Now, the Ethics Committee is a bipartisan committee, so it requires both Republicans and Democrats to institute consequence, and I don't suspect any Democrats will turn against Pelosi. But this is important for precedent value because you'll remember when Joe Wilson correctly said that Barack Obama was lying about the fact that illegal aliens, in fact, are eligible for Obamacare. Oh, the Democrats wanted to censure him and rain all kind of consequence on him. But when it is their own speaker embarrassing our institution and embarrassing our country, they don't want to get off their duff.
Well, off their duffs, and here we are at the pivotal moment. I saw today the president taking the offensive for the first time since he has served as our president. Because for the first time, he is not engaged in having to defend himself. And this may be but a short interregnum. But for right now, this president seems to have decided that this fight against evil, this fight against corruption and the party of hate is a fight worth having, and now to fight it on his terms. Your thoughts?
And it is a fight that cannot end, Lou. Just because the president has been acquitted does not mean that there were not people engaging in corrupt acts as a part of the left's political movement. And so it is my hope that Chairman Lindsey Graham, who I'm with down here in Palm Beach this evening, will continue his work in the Senate Judiciary Committee to bring forward the whistleblower, to find out the extent to which the deep state is continuing efforts against the president. Remember, they're not going to stop. They didn't stop after Mueller. After that was a nightmare, and I don't think they're going to stop now, which is why we have to continue that offensive you just referenced.
You know, it's interesting. Senator Graham, who you mentioned there, is continuing the fight. This is the same chairman of the Judiciary who said he was going to investigate the investigators, who said he was going to investigate the corruption of the party of hate. He hasn't done a single thing since assuming the chair. So what I would, if I may, suggest, I would hope he would begin that effort. To continue what he's done would be to be just more of nothing.
We need to see more action out of the Senate Judiciary Committee. They have unique oversight abilities and responsibilities, and I think that it would not serve our country well to have these remaining questions about why elements of our own government were trying to deplatform and delegitimize our president. So I think that we will not do our own voters and our own president a good service by just forgetting about this and moving on. We've really got to get to the bottom of it, and Senator Graham is the guy who can do it, and I think that we need to pick up the pace in that regard.
The axiom that you get what you accept. If we are to accept more than 3.5 years of absolute hate-filled attempts to destroy this president, they will continue. Pelosi, Schumer, the whole ragged bunch will continue, and it has to come to a stop. For as much as anything, not only justice, but as the president alluded, there aren't, I know of not a single other person who could have withstood the fury and the hate of the radical Dems that he has.
Well, that's why we love our president. Even though he undertakes just a tremendous amount of incoming, it only intensifies our support for him. And by the way, last week in Iowa, President Trump enjoyed record turnout from Republicans in similarly situated circumstances. It shows that this impeachment has backfired on Democrats, and it has Republicans and other Democrats and independents who support the president even more encouraged to get out and see 4 more years of the rising wages, low unemployment, the GDP growth, and all of the great work this president is doing to ensure that we are in a renewed American spirit.
What should be the consequences for Mitt Romney and his perfidy, his betrayal?
If I were Mitch McConnell, I would expel Mitt Romney from the Republican caucus. He has not acted like a Republican. He has shown no interest in working with this administration or Republicans who are eager to seize the opportunity of the Trump presidency. And frankly, I don't know what the difference is between Mitt Romney and a Democrat at this point, because he not only voted with them, he undertook their arguments that are fundamentally delegitimizing of the movement that has fueled all of the successes that we have had over these last several years. I want to keep the good times rolling, and I don't think Mitt Romney is focused on anything other than the self-aggrandizing of Mitt Romney.
Yeah, he's lost sight for some time now of who the leader is and who is the follower, and he is neither, which I think leads to much of his abhorrent conduct. Congressman Matt Gaetz, delighted to spend part of this celebratory acquittal day with you, and I guess they're all acquittal days forevermore. Acquitted forever, I believe, is the expression under which
acquitted forever.
We will be operating for the well, forever. Matt Gaetz, thanks so much.